Learn English through story. The dangerous desire. In the heart of an ancient city stood a grand mansion, the home of a wealthy and mysterious merchant named Casimir. The mansion was an architectural wonder, with high walls of marble and iron gates that shone like silver. Casimir had traveled the world, amassing riches and treasures from distant lands, and his home was filled with exotic goods of gold, silks, spices, and jewels. Yet despite his wealth and status, there was a restlessness in his heart, a hunger for something more elusive than material riches, immortality. For years, Casimir had been obsessed with the idea of living forever. He feared death with an intensity that overshadowed all else in his life. His wealth, his power, and none of it mattered if his life would one day come to an end. This fear consumed him, driving him to seek out ancient texts, alchemists, and mystics, all in the hope of finding the secret to eternal life. But none had succeeded. His wealth could buy almost anything, but not the immortality he craved. One day, a stranger came to the city. He was an old man, draped in a cloak of tattered fabric, but there was something otherworldly about his presence. His eyes, though weathered with age, gleamed with a sharpness that belied his frail appearance. He claimed to be an alchemist, one who had knowledge of the most dangerous and powerful of all secrets of the elixir of life. This elixir, he said, could grant immortality, but it came at a great cost. Intrigued and desperate, Casimir invited the old man into his mansion. They sat in the grand hall, surrounded by wealth and luxury, but the only thing Casimir cared about was the promise of eternal life. "I've sought this elixir for years," Casimir confessed. "Tell me, what is the cost?" The old man smiled, his expression cryptic. "The cost is not gold, nor jewels, but something far more precious. The desire for immortality is a dangerous one, Casimir. It can consume a man's soul if he is not careful." "I am prepared to pay any price," Casimir replied, his voice firm. "I am not afraid." The alchemist's smile faded, and his eyes narrowed. "Do not be so sure. Desire can be a trap, and not all who seek eternal life find the peace they long for. Still, if you insist, I will grant you the knowledge you seek." The old man reached into his cloak and pulled out a small vial filled with a liquid as clear as glass. "This is the elixir," he said. "Drink it, and you will never age. Your body will be preserved as it is now, for all eternity." Casimir stared at the vial, his heart pounding. The moment he had waited for was finally here. He could feel the weight of his desire pressing on him, urging him to seize this chance. Without hesitation, he took the vial and drank the elixir in one swift motion. The liquid burned as it slid down his throat, but Casimir didn't care. His mind was filled with the thought of immortality. He looked at the old man, waiting for something to happen, for some sign that his transformation had begun. But the alchemist simply watched him with a solemn expression. "Be careful, Casimir," the old man warned. "Immortality is not the blessing you think it is." Casimir barely heard him. His mind was already racing with the possibilities of his new life. He would have endless time to grow his wealth, to experience pleasures, to conquer new lands. He was invincible now. The old man left the mansion without another word, and Casimir was left alone with his thoughts. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, and Casimir began to notice the first effects of the elixir. His body did not change, he did not age. His hair remained dark, his skin smooth, his strength undiminished. At first, he reveled in it. He hosted grand parties, surrounded by admirers who marveled at his youth and vitality. He was the envy of everyone in the city, and his wealth only continued to grow. But as the years passed, something began to shift. The pleasures that had once filled his life began to lose their appeal. He had tasted every delicacy, owned every treasure, and experienced every pleasure that wealth could buy. And yet, he felt empty. The things that had once excited him now felt dull and meaningless. His desire for immortality had been fulfilled, but it had left him hollow inside. He watched as those around him aged and died. Friends, lovers, business partners, they all withered away, leaving Casimir alone. At first, he tried to make new connections, to fill the void with new relationships, but it was no use. The people he met all seemed temporary, fleeting. No matter how much he cared for them, he knew they would eventually leave him, just like everyone else. Years turned into decades, and Casimir's loneliness grew unbearable. The city around him changed as new generations took over, but he remained the same. His wealth meant nothing now. The treasures he had once prized were meaningless. All he had left was his immortality, the one thing he had once desired above all else. One night, Casimir found himself wandering through the city streets, his mind clouded with despair. He passed by the homes of people he had once known, people who had long since died, and felt the weight of his existence pressing down on him. Was this what immortality truly meant? An endless cycle of loneliness and loss? As he walked, Casimir spotted a familiar figure standing in the shadows of an alley. It was the old alchemist, unchanged, just as Casimir was. The sight of him sent a jolt of anger through Casimir's heart. "You!" Casimir shouted, his voice echoing through the empty streets. "You lied to me. You promised me immortality, but you didn't tell me it would be like this." The old man stepped forward, his face impassive. "I warned you, Casimir. I told you the desire for immortality was dangerous. You were so consumed by your fear of death that you didn't stop to consider what you were truly asking for." "I didn't know it would be like this," Casimir said, his voice shaking. "I didn't know I would be alone, that nothing would matter anymore." The alchemist sighed. "Immortality is not freedom, Casimir. It is a prison. You are bound by time, unable to move forward, unable to change. This is the price of your desire." Casimir's anger faded, replaced by a deep, crushing sadness. "Is there nothing I can do? Am I doomed to live like this forever?" The old man looked at him with a mixture of pity and understanding. "There is a way to break the curse, but it comes at a cost." "I'll pay it," Casimir said immediately. "Whatever it is, I'll pay it." The alchemist studied him for a long moment before speaking. "The cost is your desire itself. You must let go of your fear of death. You must accept that life is meant to be finite, that it is the very brevity of life that gives it meaning." Casimir stared at him, struggling to comprehend the words. Could he truly let go of his fear? Could he accept death, after all these years of running from it? "If you can find peace with your mortality," the alchemist continued, "the elixir will lose its hold on you. But you must truly be willing to embrace death, to see it not as an end, but as a part of life. Casimir felt a chill run down his spine. For so long, he had feared death, had seen it as his greatest enemy. But now, standing before the alchemist, he began to realize that his fear had been the very thing that had trapped him in this eternal misery. He had been so consumed by his desire for immortality that he had lost sight of what truly mattered. With a heavy heart, Casimir nodded. "I'll try." The old man smiled faintly. "It won't be easy. Desire is a powerful force, and letting go of it will take time. But if you are sincere, if you truly want to be free, you will find a way." From that day forward, Casimir began to change. He withdrew from his lavish lifestyle, selling off his treasures and living simply. He spent his days reflecting on his life, on the people he had loved and lost, and on the choices that had led him to this point. Slowly, the fear that had gripped his heart for so long began to loosen its hold. He learned to see the beauty in the fleeting moments of life, in the impermanence of things. Years passed, and one night, as Casimir lay in his modest bed, he felt something shift inside him. For the first time in centuries, he felt a deep sense of peace. He was ready. He had let go of his desire for immortality, and with it, his fear of death. As he closed his eyes, Casimir felt the weight of his endless life lift from him. And in that moment, he understood the true meaning of the alchemist's words: life was precious because it was finite. And now, at last, he was free. The desire for eternal life, or any unattainable goal, can consume and destroy the very essence of living. True freedom comes not from escaping death but from embracing life as it is, with all its beauty and impermanence. Desire, unchecked, can lead to our undoing, and only by accepting the natural course of life can we find peace. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you enjoyed, then please like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.